What's going on, everyone? I hope you're having an awesome day so far, and welcome back to another episode of Chuck's Customs. So if you've seen the last few episodes, you already know what's going on. And if you're new, welcome! I highly suggest you check out those last few episodes, that way you're up to speed on everything that's going on. But if you don't have time for that, let me just fill you in on what's going on. We're in the middle of stuffing a giant 12-valve Cummins into our little 78 GMC Sierra. Ooh, and we're getting close. Really close. And that's why I'm going to make it today's goal that by the end of this episode, Bessie will be running. But we have a lot of little things to do if we're going to be getting this truck going vroom vroom by the end of this episode. So, in the last episode, the last thing I did was install the intercooler. So we're going to focus on that right now and get that thing piped in place. So as it sits right now, the intercooler that we installed in the last episode needs to come through this little pillar right here, because it's directly in the way. So we're going to cut right here, right where we need to. That way the intercooler piping can pass right through, and then we can move on to this part, figure out where we need to cut, so that the intercooler pipe can go through there, and attach to the turbo, and then the same thing on this side. Cut right here, find out where we can cut, because the radiator's right here. Find out where we can cut here, you go through, and into the intake. Look how beautiful that turned out. That is awesome. But, moving on. In order to avoid having the oil filler tube sticking right out of the hood, as it would be in this rate, we're going to have to cut it down, make it a little shorter, but thankfully Cummins makes that super easy to do. the intercooler piped in, we got the oil filler neck shortened, and we got the dipstick mounted in a better location. Now we can start changing out the filters and giving Bessie what she really needs, because she's severely dehydrated. Now that my wallet is officially crying, it's okay. It's okay. Really? 2.5 gallons of oil? Oh my gosh. And that's not including the almost whole quart that we put in the oil filter alone. I think the transmission only took like 3.5 gallons of transmission fluid, but once it starts sucking it up into the torque converter and pushing it through the cooling lines, we'll probably have to add more in the future, but for now, it should be good just to start it and run it for a few seconds without burning up the transmission. So now the fun part. We get to dive face first into a rat's nest of wires and find out which ones will make this baby chooch. You know, make sexy noises. Let's get to that. Yeah. Oh geez. Tell you what, I'm just gonna go ahead and figure this out, and then I'll just come back and show you what I did after the fact. So figuring out the wiring took me like 2 days longer than I thought it would. I thought it would be like 15-20 minutes, but no, it took me quite a long time. But that's why I'm here, so that I can make my mistakes useful to you. Now before I show you what I did, just know that the previous owner really mutilated the wiring harness quite a bit, to the point where I found multiple spliced wires going sometimes nowhere, or going back into a different set of wires. It was really bizarre. I even found one spliced wire. It was 3 different colored wires that were like each a foot long to make one 3-foot long wire. So I cut a lot of it out. However, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to keep in order to be able to run your headlights and all that stuff, and what you need to keep to run your taillights. Because I got rid of the AC, I didn't need a lot of the wires. So, just be warned. But if you know the wiring harness in your truck well enough to do what I did without having to cut a bunch of stuff out, you'll be just fine. So I went ahead and I drew up this simple wiring diagram, or schematic. You can go ahead and screenshot that right now if you'd like. And to help you understand exactly what everything means in that little wiring diagram, I'm going to put it right down here in the corner while I walk you through what I did to the wiring. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about what we can keep. These wires all the way to the right over here, these go to your taillights, so don't touch those. These wires right next to it, these go to your headlights. Don't touch these. This wire, I'm not quite sure what it goes to, but it looks like it might be important. So we're going to hold on to it for now. And then these wires right here go right up to your wiper motor. I deleted all of these because I'm 99% sure that those all went to the air conditioning, which we obviously don't need anymore. And then there was quite a few in here that literally went nowhere, and I have no use for them anymore. Now before you go cutting all your wires out, pay close attention to this. I kept this red wire, this nice 12 gauge red wire, and this little, looks like 14 or 16 gauge brown wire. I don't know what this is supposed to go to, but it gives me constant power as long as the key is on, so we're going to keep it. Now let's dive into how we wired this whole thing up. So as you can see, our positive battery terminal is going directly to the starter solenoid. And then we took our ground cable and we brought it right up to the transmission bell housing. From there, we took the ground cable and went up to this little splitter, and then we ran another ground cable to the body. Now, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you how this fuel solenoid works. If you're anything like me, you don't know anything about it, so it would be good to have someone explain to you what's going on. Now, I didn't realize this before I started it, but this actually has 2 power wires going to it. And I wasn't sure what they were for, but I got it figured out. Now, as you can see, it's labeled A, B, and C. C is going to be your ground. So we run this right up here to the little splitter that we made, and it's grounded. Now, B is a momentary power cable, meaning when you turn the key all the way forward as if you're trying to start the truck, then you're sending power to this red B cable. Now, what that's going to do, that's going to initially activate the electromagnet in this solenoid, bringing the little arm up to give you fuel. This actually goes under the dashboard, but I'll show you where that goes right now. Now, as you can see, we're under the dashboard, right underneath the steering wheel. There's this one purple and white wire. Really sorry for my crappy tape job. I just wanted to make sure that the crimp didn't come apart. This is the wire that gets activated when you turn the key all the way forward. So that means that the B wire is coming into this one, and it's only getting power when the key is turned all the way forward. Now, the second power wire, which is A, that's your constant on power, which means that you can bring this to the brown wire that we just discussed, and this is going to give you a constant 12 volts as long as the key is on, which is going to hold this electromagnet in place. Now, once you turn the key off, it's going to cut power to that wire, and then it will drop, which will shut off the fuel, which will shut off the engine. And then this is also where we ran our ignition wire. Let me show you where that goes. This is where we ran our ignition wire. So, as you can see, we ran the power directly from the battery to the starter solenoid, which is what all the diagrams show. And then once we turn the key all the way forward, it also sends power to this little guy, completing the circuit, allowing the starter to do what it does best, and start the engine. Now, I know you're looking at this little guy, and this is probably one of the most important little guys here. This plugs in, obviously, to the same terminal that the battery wire plugs into. And this is going to go right up here, directly into this red wire. Now, this is the stock wiring harness wire. This gives you all the power that you're going to need to the inside of the truck. To your key switch, it's going to be feeding power to your wiper motor. It's going to be feeding power to your taillights, your headlights, everything. Everything. So again, a super quick recap. Don't touch. Don't touch. Battery to starter. From starter to wiring harness. From starter to purple and white. Directly to ground. From B wire also to purple and white. From A to little brown wire. Okay, so I tried to make that as simple and easy to follow as I could. I'm really sorry if it was more confusing than it was worth. But if you have any questions at all, like I always say at the end of the videos, just let me know in the comments. I'm always more than happy to answer questions. But now that we have it wired in, we can hook up that battery and see if she'll start. Let's go! If that's not a shot of adrenaline to the face, then I don't know what is. Well, I promised you guys that it would be running by the end of this episode. I'm sorry it took so long, but there she is, everyone. I really appreciate it if you made it this far, or if you even skipped to this far. Hey, I can't blame you. But that's going to be it for today's episode, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw in this episode, go ahead, show that thumbs up button some love. If you didn't like what you saw, or if you have questions or suggestions for a future episode, let me know in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you guys. And as always, if you want to see what's going to happen in the next episode, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. So again, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time on another episode of Chuck's Customs.